You know what's fascinating is this time I opted not to severely gaslight the audience by delaying the start for like 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this time I chose not to do that. But hello everyone. I have a very special guest here today in the form of my friend Bryan Young, who is a BattleTech author, who has a new book out, a book that I have not yet read, and there's a
Probably never will.
that I probably never will, but it is a good book from what I've heard about it, and we are going to talk about it. We won't, I'm sure, spoil the whole thing for people. We'll be answering questions from the audience as well, but in general, this is actually quite critical fiction in some ways because it has a lot to do with the HPG blackout, and I suspect it will eventually have something to do with the HPG blackout coming to an end, which has been a persistent thing in Battletech now for 24 years. So,
Yeah. Yeah, no, this book feels like, as much as Hour of the Wolf was sort of the book that introduced us to the Ill Clan era because it started the Ill Clan, I think this is the book that very spiritually brings us the close of the Dark Age in a lot of ways, and it caps that off. And yeah, we're gonna get some answers about the HPG, about the blackout, about what's happening, and those sorts of things. And I know you're not a fan of Tucker Harwell, Sea Fox's spy thrillers, or really anything this book has to offer except for the answers that it provides. And I know that you told me at one point that you would only read it if Tucker Harwell died, and I can't promise that.
I just want to point out, I said only if he dies horribly. So, like,
So
if he just had died from like a heart attack, or he just died peacefully in his bed, those wouldn't be acceptable outcomes. It would have to be something truly terrible, like he accidentally is somehow lit on fire or falls out of the airlock of the dropship. Those are all pretty sufficiently grisly ways for him to go. But I don't think I'm going to get what I want in this respect.
so as I've promised, I will make sure that you get a copy of the book, and I will write a horrible, horrible death for him by hand at the end of the book just for you. So your copy will have a horrible, horrible death for Tucker Harwell just for you.
But it won't be canon, and that's what really matters. Head canon doesn't work for me. but
Yeah.
but this was obviously a book that you worked a lot on. So like
Yeah, no, I
you know, all jokes
I
aside.
loved I loved working on this book. And I do think um it was a lot of fun to work on because it did let me bring a lot of my influences into BattleTech. The genesis of it really came at our big story summit a couple years ago. And, you know, Ray Arastia and I were off to one corner. There was a lot of discussion going on there. Um, Amongst a lot of us, right? There's a lot of creatives there and a lot of folks who like to talk and want to have these creative conversations. And so at one point, at many points, we were all having side conversations, and Ray and I were standing at the map, and Ray was sort of explaining to me how he thought the situation with the HPGs might need to go. And we were kind of looking at the map about what we were constrained by and what would need to happen. And I was like, this is a spy thriller. This is a James Bond story. And he said, it could be. And then we kind of worked out logistics of how that might work. And I wrote up a proposal for it, and I got very excited about it. And it changed a little bit over the development of it, but by and large, what Ray and I sat there at that board and came up with during the creative summit is what Voidbreaker turned into. And I had so much fun writing it. I had just a blast. And there were hard parts to it for sure, right? Like, it covers such a huge swath of time and a huge swath of space, right? Like, it cut, like, I the size of the inner sphere, like just transiting so much of the inner sphere is, I think people kind of forget that it could take a year to get from one side to the other. Sometimes, like in Battletech books, a lot of times it's just like we're going to go from here to here, and then the only acknowledgement that time passes is just the epigraph, right? Just the thing that says like, oh, it went from May to September, and you don't really perceive that in the story. And I think this book really kind of,
Time jumping doesn't always work in novels. Sometimes it's just
yeah,
like,
this book has to kind of lean into that a little bit in a way that I think was interesting and exciting, and I had a lot of fun with it. The hardest part about it though was that like I also wrote this book 2 years ago, and it's been um hard because I think a lot of big things for the universe happens in the book, and it answers a lot of questions that fans have been asking about, and it has been impossibly difficult to watch conversations happen online or at cons for the last 2 years and go, you might just have to read this book, and not give an answer.
the burden of knowledge is heavy. That's why I often try to
Yeah.
avoid having information that I shouldn't have. I'm like, I do not want to have the burden of knowledge.
Yeah. No, it's been hard with this one in particular because there's a lot that happens, and
So
it takes some pretty big swings.
let's dive a little bit into some of this stuff. We're not going to spoil the entirety of the book, but obviously, Mr. Harwell is on Terra when the Republic of the Sphere implodes, and I think that
that's not a spoiler.
that's not a spoiler. It does. Now there is a question though. In Ilkon's Eyes Only, he has like a speech that he gives to the people of Terra, where he's like, resist to the last man, to the last bullet. So like, is that actually in this book? Is that one of the ways that they find him, or that is a
So they get word of what he's doing on Terra. They get word of what he's doing on Terra and some of these broadcasts that he's making, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. By the time, again, part of these transit times make things difficult. And when you're told, when you're not on Terra, right? There's no sea foxes on Terra um, when the Ill Clan, when the Ill Clan trial happens, and when our main character Kenja gets her mission to go find Tucker so that she can repair the HPG, she's not on Terra. And when you're not on Terra and you're told, find this needle in a haystack on a planet you're not on a planet that still has a republic, the wall up, that you don't know how to get beyond at this point, go find that guy. It makes it a little difficult, right? And so she has to go through as much information as she can, and so part of that are Tucker's files and his background and his broadcasts, and there are a lot of broadcasts that he does. And I think we learned about some of those in not only Ilkon's Eyes Only, but I want to say Ilclan, maybe.
I don't remember it if it's in there.
Maybe. There was a source other than Ilkon's Eyes Only.
Well, no, in Ilkon they mentioned they couldn't find him. That much I do remember. They were just
I know
like
in Hour of the Wolf, there was definitely his disappearance, and that was the last place we saw him, and that there's definitely, in one of the source books,
people disappear into rivers and oceans all the time and are never found.
There was definitely a big question mark because he walked out in the hallway when Chance Vickers had her little pillow party, her little pillow fight with Devlin Stone. And
A pillow fight? Is it a trial by pillow? Is that what happened? Is that how that was made honorable? Just after
oh yeah,
the match, she's like, yeah. So we declared trial of combat, and I bid a pillow. People are like, he was an old man dying in a bed. Well, yes, he was dying.
That's why we went. That's why we went unaugmented. So while Chance was having that pillow fight, he was out in the hallway, and then when they came out, he was just gone. Right? And we didn't know where he was.
That's now the highlight of the stream. Chance Vickers' murder of Devlin Stone. Yeah, they just had a pillow fight. It's just, a couple of rambunctious scoundrels having a pillow fight. It's just, as its arms are flailing.
If there's any stream on the internet where I could so irreverently call that situation a pillow fight, it's this one. Right?
Oh
Have
my
I broken
god.
You?
my disdain for Chance, I don't even like Devlin Stone, and I'm just like, man, Devlin Stone got killed by Chance Vickers. Poor Devlin Stone. You know it's bad when I feel bad for Devlin Stone getting killed by Chance Vickers. And he literally gets killed for telling them the truth. Like, he gets killed for, the most irrational reason. He's like, yo, you guys are screwed now. She's like, how dare you? Smothers him to death. You're like, what?
Yeah. So how does Tucker get from that hallway in the hospital to the clutches of Clan Seawolf is something that the book sort of obliquely addresses. And hopefully there's some future storytelling that gives us the exact details of that. I know what those details are, but again, it's the burden of knowledge.
The burden of knowledge is terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's truly awful. And anytime I have it, I'm like, no, I need to forget this.
Wait, is Chance Vickers turning into the My Pillow guy?
Yes.
Okay.
On the channel, we are gonna. I think in March it's probably gonna be the meme, or February. Sorry, February is gonna be the meme goal. It's gonna be it's gonna be the Chance Vickers memory foam pillows. It's gonna be just wretched. I'm gonna have to when I message Eldonius about it. Eldonius is gonna be like, "Why do you do this? Why are you doing these things?"
He knows the answer.
He knows the answer.
He knows the answer.
So now that we've gotten off topic entirely, so what was like? Let's entice people a little bit here. What is your favorite part of in the first half of the book that you don't think is super spoilery that you think you can get into?
Honestly, my favorite part in the first half of the book would be, I think part of it would be the first 3 chapters that have been out there for a while. Bleeding Cool was kind enough to do sort of an exclusive premiere of those first 3 chapters. And those first 3 chapters really work as sort of that opening credit sequence, that pre-credit sequence like an Indiana Jones film or a James Bond movie, or they come pretty standard, right? Where you kind of have the end of the last adventure before the Mission Impossible team,
like Bond running through some secret Soviet base or whatever, and then it's just the very end of that sequence, and then the beginning of it is him in front of the bosses in London being like, "You did a good job, 007, but we have a new mission for you."
Yeah, and that's what Kenja, our hero, she's kind of going through. That's where actually the cover is from, like the first page of the book, where she's doing that drop into a base.
You know what?
Huh.
That's just the end of the book where the chute doesn't pop. Sorry. It seemed like the perfect dive. All right, now time to pull the cord. Let's go. I'm sorry. I have a bleak sense of humor.
It like the cover actually depicts seriously like the first page, and it's so like James Bond silliness in the best way for me, because she's this cool Sea Fox watch agent. She plummets down and does this like night drop from a drop ship, lands on top of this like building where she's going to steal all kinds of HPG secrets from this Free Worlds League company. And it's like the beginning of Goldfinger. Like if you've seen Goldfinger and Sean Connery, like he's scuba diving with the duck on his head, and he comes out of the water and takes the scuba gear off, and he's got a tuxedo. She takes her tactical like parachute suit off, and she's got a dress underneath it. And she has to go to this party, and it's just it has. I tried to work in as many familiar and also subvert as many familiar like spy and team sort of mission espionage tropes as I could, and it was just fun to do that.
I mean, it's also very uncommon for Battletech to have this type of fiction.
It is, and I think that was part of my favorite thing about it, was getting to do something different with Battletech, and making it still feel very Battletech, right?
In general, I've noticed you guys experimenting more with different types of fiction. So, like, we had Craig Reed in The Shadow of the Dragon being a crime novel. And now, of course, we have, this book being a spy thriller. And both of those are pretty uncommon in terms of, most Battletech books are like, we're going to send you to fight and die somewhere, which is great. Like that's not a bad thing. Or they're a political thriller or something like that. But you don't usually see a lot of like spy thrillers.
And it definitely has plenty of mech action. I don't want anybody to think like it's all just people on the ground, with Walther PPKs shooting each other.
I mean, that would actually be pretty okay anyway, though.
There's a lot of that. It's not a Walther PPK. Her weapon of choice is a needler, because they're quiet, right? And that was actually something really cool, and that was something Jason Hansa helped me with. She's wearing these high heels, but the heels of her heels, they come off, and they're blocks that can reload her needler.
Oh, interesting.
That was a Jason Hansa suggestion I really liked. So everybody who's been complimenting me on that needs to compliment him, because that was his idea. But there's plenty of cool mech action, and there's lots of really cool mechs you don't get to see a lot, but there's also a lot of really cool like combined arms action in it with a former Kellhounds unit. Which I thought was really fun. So because I knew I was writing this at a time when I knew that the Mercenaries Kickstarter was going to happen and there was going to be a lot of like tanks, I knew there was going to be room for that, and people were going to be interested to see how that could play out in the stories in the battlefield. There was a lot of room to play with that in a way that I thought made sense for the story, so that I thought like it would be fun to show that in the books. So there's a lot of really cool combined arms stuff. So you see a lot of really cool unconventional or some interesting mechs you might not see very often, and some cool combined arms fights that sometimes we forget about in Battletech because we get too obsessed with the mechs, which is, I mean, admittedly why we're here, but
I thought we were all here for Aerotech. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I always have to kick the Aerotech when it's down.
Every time someone mentions Aerotech, Ray takes another shot.
You just see Ray like something like, oh no! Just runs over to the cabinet, pours out a bottle of vodka.
Yeah. No, he's just got him lined up because he just knows.
Oh,
like
my
there's
God.
a little, yeah.
Inebriated everywhere he goes. one eye half squinting.
So that's why we need to stop bringing it up so we can just like not harm Ray.
So, yeah, that's. I mean, like, if I were into spy thrillers, that would be excellent. But I like the creativity behind it. It sounds like you guys had a lot of fun putting this all together. Let's see if we can take some questions from the audience.
Yeah, I'm all about questions, and it doesn't even have to be about this. Like,
let's see here. Well, first go over the super chats because there are a few people who have donated to the stream today. Bryan Young, I feel the name is a misnomer. That's not very nice, Graham.
I mean, I am getting up there in years, but I will be forever young.
Oh, Grammatron says Tucker Carl. Huh? I think he means Tucker Harwell. Tucker Harwell falls into a rock grinder. What would be wrong with that? I mean, it would be wrong for Tucker. Yes, Tucker would not enjoy that experience, but I would. So
he'd just be screaming, "This was a mistake!" the entire time.
Oh God! Why? He's just getting further down. It's nice to see Battletech fiction branching into various other styles like spy thrillers and detective stories, while still keeping the mechs. I agree.
Yeah, no, there's definitely other genres I'd really like to explore in that way too. I've got an idea for sort of like a little bit of like a horror mystery vibe that I wanna do. Like, I'd really like to explore that.
Was Wham's Jitterbug playing when Chance did Pillow? Oh my God. Chance she shouts pillow fight when she grabs the pillow. He's like, what the hell? And you see like Alaric in the background. He's like, He's like, what did you just do? She's like, I said pillow fight.
It's like it's that song from Grease when they're doing the pillow fight. It's I'm Sandra D. So you've got Rizzo singing in the background too.
Chance Ficker's memory foam pillows tested by Devlin Stone, backed by the full faith of the ill clan, used to extreme pillow fights against weak old men. My pillow, when suffocating in a mobile defenseless man, accept no substitutes. Brian looks at Red disapprovingly. Why, man? Why? Karaman, question. Brian, did they at least send you a Fox Patrol patch, pin, and dice puck?
I've got a dice puck. I don't have a patch and a pin yet. I'm hoping that I will get out to Adepticon, and if I'm not greeted with one, then I learned so much spycraft, writing this book, that I will complete a heist.
The spycraft amounts to, you just sees it on the table, you see two fingers just slip it off the table.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, how you had to learn that much from the whole book.
Yeah.
So Angry Caveman has a interesting question. He goes, how many more Patreons do you need to give us GE cosplaying as Jack Sparrow? What is the number at now?
33.
So you need 33 more people to join your Patreon for the most cursed thing. I don't get why people want the cursed things. I don't understand.
Because they're funny.
I don't get why people wanted Sun Tzu Meow. I don't get why people wanted Alaric without his shirt on. It's like, I'm like the dude. It's like the dude abides, the dude provides, whatever the audience wants. But at the same time, it's like, the audience has weird tastes, man.
Whatever. It's fine. It's fine.
Here's a good one. Was there a scene you didn't get to include in the novel that you wanted to?
Not specifically. I was kind of left to my own devices to write the book, and it expanded in sort of, yes, actually. I will say my initial pitch opened at the hospital.
Oh, interesting.
It was somebody nabbing Tucker at the hospital. So it literally opened in the pages of Hour of the Wolf. And with what the story shifted to about Tucker actually getting off of Terra, that became impossible. But I still hope that scene ends up in the fiction somewhere.
Like in a shrapnel story or something like that.
Well, I think I don't want to comment on where it's gonna to pop up, but yeah, like that scene will be cool when it comes out. Yeah.
When researching the book, what was your favorite BattleTech covert option gear to play within the story?
One of the things I really liked were the little the little explosives that Kenja uses. She uses these little explosives that she can set to either like detonate on impact, or that she'll toss and then shoot at to explode. Also, in that very first sort of chapter, they've got some stuff where they upload some stuff to steal it from Iratech. That was pretty cool.
It's always good. The Free Worlds League's always the one losing out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another you, sir, made an enemy for life.
Yeah.
Let me think here. Oh, well. Oh, in the stream with Ray the other day, he said Fontaine Marik might get some love. The Fontaine, by the way, is very popular on this channel. People love Fontaine. Could you expand on that at all? I mean, like, Ray's not here. Big Red 40 Tech, if Bryan authored a Fontaine book, would you read this one on CFox? It would depend. You have to understand that, like, I'm not a person who's often willing to to drink the bitter medicine just in order to get some ice cream. But yeah, I mean, it would depend. Like, there has to be a premise to the story. Like, if the story is like, you know, Fontaine drowning in his bathtub by accident somewhere, I'm not really interested in reading about that, right? Like, you know, the premise has to, like, you know, you can come out with novels, like, you know, people famously know there's some novels that have come out over the last couple of years that I don't enjoy, about factions I was otherwise interested in. Like, you know, things are...
See, I think that's why you might actually enjoy this one as a reverse of those situations. And that this one might surprise you, and that the others surprised you, where those were factions you were interested in, you didn't enjoy them as much. This one's about a faction that you didn't like. I think
I have actually come to hate CFox more over the last... CFox has actually supplanted Clan Wolf at this point as the thing I hate the most in BattleTech at the moment. So I don't want, like, you know, I'm obviously not just sitting here raging, you know, behind a camera about it, but like, it's something I tend to avoid at this point pretty much at all costs. I'm like, how do you want to detract Big Red's enjoyment of a particular story? Well, we just have to get the Seafoxes involved, and I promise we can lower the amount of enjoyment Big Red's getting out of this book. And you know what? I never understood that before for other people, so I just want to make it very clear. I've been wrong in my life before, and I was wrong about this. I'm like, oh, don't be so like this. You should love this faction or whatever, because I think it's okay. And then as I have expanded my consumption of media, and make no mistake, I very much enjoy most of what comes out for BattleTech, but I'm like, I now understand those people. I know, get it. It's like, you're a Star Wars fan. Imagine telling somebody who, like, you know, absolutely despises the Yugen Von War from, like, the expanded, like, well, this time the Yugen Von are going to be awesome. Like, I'm sure that...
I mean, like, the thing I tell...
You're swimming upstream. You're swimming
The thing I tell Star Wars fans generally is, like, Star Wars is a buffet. Eat what you want, right? Like, don't sneeze in the mashed potatoes because you don't like them, right? Leave them for the people who do.
No, and that's the same with this, right? Like, I am sure there's going to be an enormous number of CFox fans and just general BattleTech fans who have an absolute blast with the book. Generally, your writing almost always delivers. Like, in terms of consistency, you're one of the most consistent BattleTech authors in terms of, like, this is my own opinion. Other people are free to disagree, right? But there's very
They're wrong. But...
they're wrong. Yeah. This is part of, like, what I just mentioned, like a pluralistic mindset, but several seconds ago, I take all that back.
No. I'm good.
No, I'm wrong, actually. Again, but no, like, there's things meant for everybody. There's always going to be stories that some people gravitate towards. There's going to be stories people don't gravitate towards. That's like, BattleTech is such a huge franchise, in the sense of, like, how big it is. It's almost impossible to say that you're going to want to gravitate towards everything that comes out, whether it be specific eras, specific characters, or specific factions. Like, you're going to find that, like, some people will enjoy some stuff, some people will want to enjoy some stuff, some people will just dodge some stuff. Like, that's just I used to have the opposite opinion, like, no, but now as I've become as I've become a little bit more wise in my years, yeah. I know when I'm like, good luck with that one, Captain. I'm not boarding that ship.
No, I get it. I get it.
And you know what? I just, like, just to talk a little bit more on a positive note here about it, I used to like the Sea Foxes 10 years ago, right? It's just, I hope that they get to a space in a few years or something like that where I don't feel this way anymore. Like, where, when new source books come out or just new materials come out, where maybe they're in a different place and I feel a little less like I currently do. Because right now it's they have managed to supplant the faction that has been at the bottom of my list for 20 years. For 20 years, I was just like, and by the way, my affection for the Wolves did not go up. I just want to make that very clear. Like, it has remained unimaginably the same. And it has nothing to do with Voidbreaker. Voidbreaker, I'm sure, is a well-written book, etc. But just even reading it will remind me of all of the Seafox stuff that I don't like. I think
my guess of what's going to happen is that when you come to a place in the future where the Sea Foxes get to a point where either you've come to terms with where they're at, or they've come to their evolution where you can be okay with where they're at, you might go back and backfill and read something like this where you're not enraged about where they're at.
Like, I used to hate the Republic, and I still don't like the Republic, but I don't hate the Republic anymore. Before, I would just dodge most Republic things. I was just like, the Republic sucks. Nobody likes the Republic. Even before Hour of the Wolf, I actually got to the point where I was like, you know what, they're okay. Like, I don't like them. It's not like I have a great love or affinity or affection for the Republic. But, like, I got to the point where their story inevitably ended up being more satisfying to me overall. Not because they died. As I said, I felt this way before they died. If anything, them dying has probably made them more popular, not just with me, but with other people. Like, the amount of love I've seen come out for the Republic since they were unceremoniously killed is kind of hilarious. Like,
there's some post-Republic stuff in this book that I think you dig later. When you do, if you do, give it a chance down the line, there's some Republic stuff in here I think you dig.
But yeah, like, there's a bit of a nuance to fandom. It's not just everybody is a fan of everything all the time. Now, what's important is to not tell other people, who are enjoying it, that they're wrong. People, like, when people read something and enjoy it, that's awesome. It doesn't matter if I'm interested in it or not. Like, it's serving a purpose for those people, and it's creating a lot of entertainment for those people, and it's inspiring people to paint miniatures, to get further involved with the setting, and those are all positive. It's just, and again, like, this is just part of being an adult and understanding these things. But That doesn't mean that I'm going to read the book.
No, it's funny because like every time I think you told me, I think it was a year ago, I'm never going to read this book, and I know you weren't going to read the book. So me over the last year going like, is Red going to read the book has been a bit, right? Like, I
Oh
don't
no, I
expect
know.
you to read the book.
No, I know. Other people
I'm
in the
telling
chat though
everybody
do.
else. I'm telling everybody else. So like, I'm not expecting that. And so when we were doing this stream, I think a few people were scratching their heads going like, why are they coming on to talk about this? And I think it was as much for us to just hang out and talk about Battletech and whatever, and to tell people about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think people
Well, again, this is a big thing for Battletech. There has been a lot of books coming out at the moment that are all quite consequential for Battletech. The Blood Will Rise coming out, that's an important book. Trial of Birthright, I would actually argue, is the most important book to come out of, like, it's not, I'm not degrading anybody else. Like, these are all big books, but it's just,
no, Trial of Birthright's a big deal. Yeah,
and hats off to Michael Saravella. I know he's probably busy at the moment, but he pulled off what I consider to be a miracle, because even though Mike's my favorite Battletech author, I even remember at Adepticon, I'm like, I know that this will be written in a way that it is not bad, but I have no idea if this will be good for Battletech. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I hope it works. and thankfully it did. There's very little I can say in the negative category for it, and I think that I was really worried about the Terran plotline prior to that book coming out, and to a lesser extent Ilkhan's Eyes Only coming out, because I was like, the Terran plot was not in a good place. It's in a much better place now.
I think one of the things I'm really excited about the last few months, or the last couple months, right? Like with Ilkhan's Eyes Only. Well, actually, just the last few weeks. With Ilkhan's Eyes Only, with Trial of Birthright, with Voidbreaker, with Blood Will Tell coming, is I think folks are really finally starting to see the fruits of that in a major way, the fruits of that creative summit we did a couple years ago. And for the last 2 years, when people have heard me or Ciravella or Stackpole or Ray or Lauren or whoever saying like, we've got a plan, we really all believe in the plan, like, stick with us, we're heading in that direction. Like, I think people are finally going like, oh, maybe they did have a plan. maybe they weren't just screwing around.
Well, I thought people had a plan, but plans don't always come to fruition in the way that you imagine them. Just because it's like, well, it was all planned to be this way. It's like, there's some books that came out where it's like, and again, I like most of what CGL's put out. You can see my reviews. I talk about these things very favorably often because they're good. I've also mentioned things that I don't like, and the things I don't like were still in the plan. It's like execution matters, and sometimes just some plans don't always work. You can have the best plan in the world, but if it's just not if it's just not what's going to vibe, it's just not going to work. And yeah. I definitely had concern about the vibe, but that my concerns have been, I'll admit I was wrong, and being wrong is good. Not all the time, obviously, but it's like being wrong all the time is shitty, but being wrong some of the time is okay. I'm perfectly happy to admit that I was wrong, but I was concerned because I saw some of the stuff that was there, and I'm like, I just don't know where someone can take this to a satisfying next step, and it has been relieving, to be honest, that there's some life there that I didn't see. So I'm on board in terms of where things are currently going. I'm excited for a lot of stuff, not everything. Not everything. Let's be very real here. Nobody can accuse me of only being Captain Positivity. I can be a Debbie Downer about some things that I'm not interested in. But like Clan Seafox. I would be so much more interested in Clan Seafox if they all drowned. But
they're spacefaring people.
Oh, everybody's a spacefaring person once you jettison them out of an airlock. But no, like, again, I think that, I'm sure in 5 years or something like that, there will be, more stuff that I'm interested in. Nothing is forever, except for my disdain for Clan Wolf. Actually, that's not true. I will become a fan of Clan Wolf after they have changed for as long as they have been unacceptable. So if I make it to about 80 years old, I might flip. I might, I might flip. It's like 80. I think they're finally starting to get better.
It could happen overnight, though. I think a lot of people felt that same way about the Jade Falcons.
But I liked the Jade Falcons.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying there were a lot of people who felt that way about the Jade Falcons, and it was like Hour of the Wolf, Question of Survival, kind of turned them around on how they felt about Jade Falcons pretty overnight.
I mean, I like almost every iteration of Jade Falcon. I don't like all of their characters, but like just, the attitude and like I just view them as different stages of their culture going through different stuff. You can take a look at like the clan invasion, you can take a look at the Dark Age, and now you can take a look at the Ill Clan era. Each one is a phase the Jade Falcons are going through based off of external and internal stimuli, and it all mostly makes sense. It doesn't all make sense because sometimes things just don't work, but I've when I was a little kid, I hated Jade Falcon because everybody hated Jade Falcon. But once I started to get older and, recognize the value in their storytelling, and Jade Falcon right now is in my favorite place it's been with GE, and with a lesser extent the Alina Mercantile League and stuff. I think that stuff's all extremely cool. I think that, Stephanie Chistu can drown in sewage, but, but at the end of the day, she'll be back anyway. They'll just bury her at the pet cemetery along with the other Jade Falcon, and then she'll be back again.
I love all the different factions of the Falcons right now. I love the Sudeten Falcons so much. I love the Alina Mercantile League. I think if anybody's going to create some competition for Sea Foxes anytime soon, it's going to be them. And I think that's going to be a really interesting story.
I think it's the Snow Ravens.
If that happens.
I think the Snow Ravens are the ones who when reading through
I think it will be in a different way.
Fair. But like the Snow Ravens were done so well in Ilkon's Eyes Only. Like, if you want to talk about the thing I got like super excited for more content to come out about them with Ilkon's Eyes Only, it was the Snow Ravens.
And then what? I don't know. I really want to explore the crisis of identity. I've gotten really able to explore the crisis of identity that G's Falcons have gone through, and I really want to explore that with Stephanie. And I want to see what happens when both of those halves of the clan in crisis.
Well, I mean, it's more like 3/4 versus a quarter at this point, given that G's got an army and Stephanie has some volunteers.
Yeah.
Which I think would be the funniest thing when she shows up. Yes, let's have a trial. He's like, yeah, well, I've got like a galaxy and a half worth of soldiers. How many do you have? She's like, you have a galaxy?
Yeah.
Just looking around, she looks back at the other warriors. It's like, we're down to like a cluster right now, aren't we? Shit.
Yeah.
He's like watching them all whispering. He's just like, why do I get the feeling that there's not quite as many of you as there are of us?
I'm really excited about where, like the Hinterlands in general, I'm really excited about.
Oh, the Hinterlands is even with the Terran plot kind of not being the redheaded stepchild of the setting at the moment anymore. The Hinterlands is still far and away the most interesting part of the Ilklan era. Still, it just is.
Yeah, I have so much fun playing there.
it's gonna, like, I mean, you've got a bunch of things there too. You've got the Fox Patrol there. You've got GE's Falcons. You functionally handle the Alina Mercantile League as well sometimes, if I'm not
I mean,
mistaken.
I did Lone Wolf and Fox, which is the only like book length work that they've been in, and then they've been in both the GE's books, and they were in. They might have something to do with Voidbreaker. Um, maybe.
No hints. No hints
No
or anything.
hints. No
No
hints.
hints.
Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, Mercuron. My love for Nicole it burns as hot as a star. If that star were composed of my contempt and disdain. Poor Brian, sitting there like, oh god. Let's see here. So red hot. Ah, he gets it. Except for, I guess it would be more like, no, red. That would be like a red dwarf star or a red giant. That'd actually be a cool star. It would be more like blue hot. I think blue. As the entire thing just goes silent. As the crowd goes mild.
well, no, I was reading a question down there.
One of the things I haven't really seen with the Sea Foxes is the interconnection between all of the various Sea Fox Conates and how spread out do you believe that there could be an internal conflict. A lot of people I've noticed have been rooting for the Conates to all descend on each other, which...
So Voidbreaker does involve a lot of the different Conates. But they're all pretty unified in like, you know, it'd be good for Sea Fox as a whole if we get the HPG online. So they, you know, Kenja, although she's part of the Tiburon Khanate, sort of has this letter of, you know, of transit, as it were, that says like, I'm working on the HPGs. Give me whatever I want. It doesn't matter what Khanate you're from. So she kind of doesn't have to worry a little bit about like all of the different
Conates. Yeah.
politics of the Khanates, but that is definitely something that like other people working on other things would have to worry about in a way that she doesn't.
Oh wow.
Just because of her mission.
That's crazy, Vesker. You're out of your mind, dude. I guess Besker really wants to see G. Chistu go on a rescuing romance mission for Tara Campbell.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy.
Yeah, he just gifted 32 subs to Brian's Patreon. I'm just gonna delete this post. It's gonna ban Besker. Yeah, no, wow. So yeah, guys, follow the link if you've got a Patreon, and you can get a gifted subscription to Brian's Patreon.
So it seems like Jason doesn't know what's going on here. So Jason Hansa, as a joke, someone asked if I would write a
This is so absurd.
30s serial style ridiculous pulp novel version of, like, imagine Errol Flynn playing G.E. Chistu coming in and rescuing Tara Campbell from the clutches of Alaric Ward. And at some point in the rescue, as he's grabbing Tara Campbell and swinging away on a rope, he shouts, "You'll remember this as the day you almost caught Khan G.E. Chistu." And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll write that. I just need 100 subs to my Patreon."
He said this facetious. See, this is the problem. You always say these things facetiously. Like, I was like, yeah, guys, we'll get Shirtless Alaric done if I get, like, 75 channel members. Oh. Oh, no. Why did I do that? So, yeah, unfortunate things happen when you promise things like this.
Yeah. So, So it looks like that's probably happening. And then Red said, "Well, if it happens, I'll narrate it." So
Yep. You see that I also make promises that I immediately regret. Oh my god.
So yeah, that's.
I still remember when Stackpole did the Hungry Like the Wolf short story, and I did the narration for it and sent it to you because I just thought it was really funny. You're like, you need to post this. I'm like, actually, I don't need to post this. I even tried to do the excuse like, well, it is Mike's book, and I would never want to impose on Mike because, like,
So I immediately texted Mike and said, "Mike, do you care if Red posts this?" And he's like, "Please, just here, just have him give the link on my Patreon."
I'm like, oh, I've made a terrible mistake.
That video did well, though, didn't it?
I mean, for what it was, it did fine. I think 3,000-ish people watched it because the other 30,000 subscribers I have all had taste. The other 30,000 people were like, "This is radioactive, and I'm not going near this." About 3,000 people were like, "It makes me feel tingly, like I can feel my cells dying as I approach it. This is going to be awesome."
Yeah.
Come back as disfigured mutants. Yeah. It's just like, what was it? It was awesome. Even making that was painful because, like, I couldn't get through some of those sentences, and so I'm trying to read it, and I'm just breaking out into laughter because, like, he's using the worst words you can. Like, they're phonetically correct, like, you can use them, like, grammatically and everything, it all works, but it's like, you shouldn't use that word to express what's happening right now. You could tell he had a lot of fun making it.
Yeah. I think, actually, if I had to describe this era of Battletech right now, I think that's, like, right now it feels like everybody I'm working with, everybody who's working on Battletech, it just feels like everybody's having fun, and I think that's coming off in all of the writing.
Yeah.
Like, nobody feels like it's torture. Nobody feels like, oh, I'm doing this against my will. Everybody's doing stuff everybody believes in, and, like, everybody just really loves Battletech, and everybody's like, we're in it because this is the thing we want to do.
Yeah. So you also have other things that you've been writing for Battletech. Because,
oh boy.
Some of these things we touched on a little bit. Some of these things, we've not really referenced yet. So one of them, we'll talk about the Hinterlands stuff a little bit here. Next year, I'm probably going to be finally tackling the Fox Patrol. This year is just super booked up. You know what I'm doing this year, so that's like... Even like finding time to read. I'm like, I took a week off. I got to read 3 books. What else did you do? I didn't do anything else because I need to catch up. I start work on the Thunderbolt tomorrow. So the week over is over tomorrow. You guys obviously have the Fox Patrol going on. That seems to be relatively well received by a pretty sizable margin of people.
Yeah.
Do you have more Fox Patrol stuff coming?
Yeah, so eventually, hopefully sooner than later, Lone Wolf and Fox, which was the serial novel in Shrapnel, is going to get collected. And I wrote a 15,000-word story to collect with that covers their time during the Battle of Sudeten. So it'll be from Katie's perspective, grappling with all of the issues with the Lone Wolves and the Hell's Horses and G and the Jade Falcons.
That's one of the funniest parts of the Fox Patrol versus the Hell's Horses. Obviously, I think you've probably seen the self-removal squad, just for YouTube purposes. I don't want to say the word, like the movie with Starro the Conqueror appearing. I can just imagine that, but with the Fox Patrols. So you see, like, Katie ready to go. She's like, all right, guys, what are we up against? You see these drop ships land and, like, these hulking Omnimex coming off. It's like the Fox Patrol versus Clan Hell's Horses.
Yeah.
You just see her like,
I mean, I will say it does cause a bit of a crisis for Katie. And on top of that, hopefully at some point I have written a Fox Patrol a short novel of 50 or 60,000 words that'll hopefully come out after that follows that. In without question, the Lone Wolves take off from Sudeten and head to Almatason, which featured prominently in the Hotspots Hinterlands book. And so the Fox Patrol book takes place on Almatason. And I think it gives a really good cross-section of like what folks could be doing there as part of their mercenaries campaigns, on top of just being a really fun, cool, touching Fox Patrol story. And we got that Christmas story that was a surprise that's still free.
I've downloaded it, but I've not had time to read it yet. I didn't even have time to read the second Death Kangaroo story until I finally finished it. So that was it was a lot of fun, but like I remember Mike dropped into the chat like I think 2 months ago when it came out, and he's just like, I'm doing this book. I'm like, I would love to read that, but I have no time. I was pulling 12-hour days working on the Banshee video at the time. I'm like, it's not gonna happen.
No, I love those Death Kangaroos. I love them. They're flying under the radar. If you haven't, I'm not you read, because you just said you read it.
I literally just finished reading it. Yeah.
If you haven't read the Death Kangaroo stories, read them. They're just hilarious.
So, Brother Malachi asks, on a slightly better note, can you make Red's Trillion Kroner bill canon? He even paid for the art. He did most of the dirty work for you.
I think that would be a Ray thing, and something tells me Ray would be amenable, but I don't know.
The only problem with it is, and I really hate to say this, there is I did not do the Trillion Kroner bill because of historical analogs to like Weimar Republic Germany. But obviously, if the German coded faction goes through hyperinflation, that might not be something that would be well received. I just want to I only did it because they literally went bankrupt, and I just think it's really funny. You read about the fact, how bankrupt you have to be for your central bank to be like, we can't print more money to hire mercenaries. It's like, my God. It's like this is at the level of financial this is the level of insolvency that you would see from like a tin pot dictatorship that has printed endless money. So that's why that's why we made the Trillion Kroner bill, beyond the fact that Trillion Steiner is named Trillion. It's just really funny when you see, and like Eldonius, he did something I didn't even recognize right away. He put 20 serial numbers on it. So some people were like, oh, well, if they just printed a couple of these Trillion Kroner bills, it wouldn't affect things that much, because in the broad scheme, it's like, the 20-digit serial number means they've printed quadrillions of these bills. And that's the part where I'm like, oh my God. It's the Lyran State's like, singing like, yeah, we are having a lot of trouble paying our bills. So what did we do? We printed the money. We printed all of the money. It's like, oh. One guy responded to me on, I posted it on Reddit as well, and one guy responded to me when I joked that it loses half of its value every day. He goes, "Oh wow, it loses half of its value every day, but I've got all of my assets in a 4% savings account." He's like, "I'm gonna go take my money out of the bank."
That's how it happens. That's how it starts.
Just hyperinflating the money away. But also, if that went canon, I like how Steiner, too. Every Steiner fan in the world would just want to skewer me. If that ever became canon, they'd be like, yeah, so Big Red's the one who ruined House Steiner. I'm like, no, you can't blame me. It was Stephen Mohan who ruined House Steiner. You blame me, he wrote the book. Also, rest in peace, Stephen Mohan. So that was he wrote Bonfire of Worlds, which is where the Steiners go bankrupt, and he unfortunately recently passed away.
I would say too, Stephen, who did I did specifically cite him in the acknowledgments of my book of Voidbreaker, because Bonfire Worlds was central to being able to write Voidbreaker, and was definitely something I had to reference quite a bit for this book.
Yeah. So, no Austrian. Oh boy. What's better, Steiner bankruptcy or Hell's Horse's victory? Or real coup d'etat has never been tried before Novicat? I think real coup d'etat Clan Novicat is the funniest one. Just because, like, everywhere they go, they try to coup the government that takes them in, it seems. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, you're a Novicat, you're here to help us out. Like, you see the Republic, why are the Spirit Cats turning on us? The Draconis Combine, why are the Novicats trying to overthrow the government? Even now in the Free Worlds League, like, you guys are cool, right? They're like, yeah, we'll be really cool after we overthrow the government. You're just sitting there like, I don't think you guys understand. It's like, I think that this is a road to dying. like when Alaric, he brings in that Novicat to be one of his advisors, I'm like, you're an idiot, man. Like, this guy's gonna oust you from power. He's already eyeing it up. Like, I bet I could be Ilkhan.
Beware the Ides of Novicat.
It's like, why would you trust a Novicat? You'd have to be out of your mind. Third time's a charm. Novicat, stop, please.
Et tu, Novicat.
It's like, didn't you say that 3 weeks ago? Yes. So, people now clamoring in the chat for House Steiner Chistu.
You know, G's gonna have to find something really creative for how he's gonna survive.
I mean,
I'm really excited for those next steps.
Realistically, there is going to have to be big changes in the Hinterlands. There's going to have to be big changes in everywhere. And like, I don't say that because things are bad or whatever. I mean that in the sense of the story in how it's currently, it can't stay here. Like, you know, things are going to have to change pretty wildly even in some of these parts. The two cons are not aware of each other, Silverline.
No, yeah, they're not aware of each other yet. As far as GE knows, yeah, like that. As far as he knows, the Falcons were either destroyed or absorbed by Clan Wolf,
which is a reasonable assumption.
Yeah.
So. We mentioned it before, and maybe apparently we shouldn't have, but you have also done 4 or several, 3 or 4, I think, Rosselhaig Dominion short stories that will novellas that will eventually come out.
There are 4 interconnected novellas that have one common story arc that'll add up to one novel. That cover the pre-Civil War, the Civil War, and post-Civil War. That I'm really, really proud of and really excited to get out there. Again, burden of knowledge. I don't want to say too much about them, but reading the Ghost Bear stuff in Trial of Birthright really gave me the chills thinking about how the stuff I wrote from the Rachelheg side is going to come off, knowing
Dahlia Becker's moment in that book is so tragic. When, and I, as you know, I'm not a big fan about how things spun out, but I'll still give credit where credit is due. Like, when Dahlia Becker gets told to her face by Alaric that, like, yeah, I'm gonna reject your offer for joining, my Star League, and she's just left standing there, like, staring into space, and, like, I think it was Helmer's like, hey, is everything okay? And she just has this look like, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. It's literally sitting there like, This is gonna be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely a problem. And I think as more source books are coming out and more stories are coming out about the Dominion, I think um I think that Civil War as it comes to more light is going to satisfy a lot more people.
Brother Malachi says, so since both the cats and the jaguars are in pieces at the moment, why not make a Clan Nova Jaguar? Clan Smoke Cat. You think Nova Jaguar sounds better. Apologies for the nightmare fuel cringe. Honestly, and I know this is probably not what some people want to hear, Clan Smoke Jaguar in its current form is Clan Nova Jaguar. They are well, actually, they'd be Clan Nova Goliath Jaguar. Like
They're Clan Big Kitty.
they're Clan Chimera, because like they're not just like, they've got a bunch of Goliath Scorpion heritage, they've got a bunch of Nova Cat heritage, they've got a bunch of like, they're not just like calling them like, this is one reason why I don't like them, because just calling them Clan Smoke Jaguar is like, sure fam. Whatever you want to be called this week. They have almost as much claim to being Nova Cats as the Spirit Cats do. Have a good one, Kizvac. Wouldn't it be Clan Homunculus? Oh boy. Clan cosplayers? People know my opinion on it. But yeah, like, so I hope the Rosselhag stuff is gonna work out. Because like,
I think people will really enjoy where it heads. I really do. I mean I know I do, but I mean I get very excited about what I'm doing. So that's, I don't know. I'm excited about it. I really believe in it. I put everything I had into those stories, and I really love the characters that are in them, and I love the arc that it tells and the nuance it adds to the whole situation there. And
having a reasonable explanation, and when I say reasonable, I don't mean people are being reasonable, but I mean having an actual explanation for like like, it's the biggest problems with Dominions Divided is it's just like, this is like this, none of this is meaningfully brought to where this should be. None of this is like, people forget that like people will have civil discord or like civil wars for dumb reasons, but to the people in there, they still make sense. And it was a weird thing, and you can't really take the book away. The book exists, so it has to be made to work. So I
think the thing I'm excited about is getting to explore the cracks in Dominion society that have existed going back for years, for source books for a long time, and getting to actually like bang some wedges into those cracks that I think people that might have flown under people's radar. Because it's really interesting stuff.
Let's see here. Guys, you need to provide us with questions. Clan Neo Blakis, I don't think that works on multiple levels.
Oh, there was one about the subject of the graphic novel. And then one about an upcoming novel about somebody else's I'm excited for.
Novels? Also, how's it going, Craig?
The subject of the graphic novel is Battletech.
Excellent. That's not vague. Thank you for...
I can talk in the barest bones about some of the stuff we've announced already is that it is set in the Hinterlands. Because that's where all the coolest stuff is happening. It is very mercenaries based because it was for the Mercenaries Kickstarter. There's going to be a lot of mercenaries in it. Eldon Cowger is drawing it. Mike and I have turned in the first script for the first volume. And I'm really happy with it. Like, I think there's so much good stuff in there, and it's going to make longtime Battletech fans really happy. It's going to put smiles on people's faces. It's got lots of cool action. But as far as the story, it's intended to be an on-ramp for fans, new fans, but it's also intended to be full of stuff longtime fans are going to recognize and be really into. So that's about as deep into it as I can get at this point. I think we're still a little ways off because it takes a long time to draw stuff.
There's a couple questions here.
Yeah,
that were all like just some of them are super chats, some of them aren't. I'm going to do the super chat ones first.
You do this. I'm just.
What upcoming novel of another are you excited for? Like from someone else, basically.
Oh yeah, no. Tom Levine's book. I'm.
Oh yeah,
so
The
excited.
Blood Will Rise. Yeah, that sounds like it'll be.
Blood Will Rise. Like that's another one of those like burdens of knowledge that like I've known what that was supposed to be from the time of that summit, and that's the book that I've been most excited for since that summit. Back when someone else was going to be writing it, even, and they had to bow out.
Then we've like, so The Blood Will Rise. That's the Capellan side of Ilkhan's Eyes Only. If I remember. And like, did you guys know that the Capellan Confederation does not win Ilkhan's Eyes Only? Just FYI.
I mean, like,
I always thought it was the funniest. Like, I always thought it was the funniest how when like even before the artwork got dropped on Tuesday Newsday showing Deny on the Celestial Throne, I'm like, guys, this is called the Ilklan era. They're not gonna have the Capellan Confederation conquer Clan Wolf in the news. Like, this isn't gonna happen. And there was like a small subset of people like, no, they're gonna do it. So even it's like talking about the book before it came out, I'm like, the guys, I don't know if you guys have been spoiled about this or not, but the Cappies don't win.
The thing I needed to remind myself continually reading Ilkhan's Eyes Only is that this is Spurlock Connors trying not to get shot as the messenger about how rosy the situation is as he's handing this report to Alaric Ward, right? So, like, there's stuff that I know that's not as rosy as he's making it out to be that either has already been published or hasn't, and I'm going like, that's a very generous way of putting that, or like, you're a goddamn liar. Like,
absolutely. We've got a question from Brother Malachi, who says, not a question, but bring back the first Somerset Strikers as a rebel group since the Falcons have fallen apart.
That's above my pay grade.
For the Dominion's novellas, will it be a multifaceted grand play, a series of personal experiences at a ground level, or following a single character through the whole arc?
How to answer that?
Thank you, by the way, Brother Malachi. I sincerely appreciate it. We will get to that question when we can. Just FYI, I do appreciate the support. Thank you.
Sort of all three, to be honest. So there are aspects of it that do the grand play thing that are very multifaceted. There are personal experiences at ground level, but it does follow an arc through a few characters through the whole thing.
Then we've got Greenberg's Godzillas. This is a unit I think I've only heard the name of, and I've never really followed much of their history. Can we see those guys come back? Because they've been MIA for 100 years.
You know, I've never heard of them. My guess, and this is only a guess, I have no idea. I would love to use them, but my guess is they're probably on some list of people we can't use the same way we probably shouldn't use Team Bonsai.
Or
right?
or like, what's their name? The Fighting Urukai.
Yeah, where it's just like, FASA didn't realize they could get sued, or they were flying so high, so low under the radar, they never expected anyone would notice enough for them to get sued. And so, like,
Toxic Toast says, Wolf Victory is fake news.
Yeah, exactly.
And Again, a big thank you to Malachi, who says Korshakov's Cossacks, since they were a thorn in Liao's side as hired guns, but were offed by one of the most infamous stews of BattleTech history. It could be a non-Harshakov running group for all I care. Okay, no more super chat spam. No, thank you. I do appreciate it. Do you want to see? We can ask a bit more of a broad question, not just about talking about the Cossacks, but do you want to see more mercenary work or rebel work in kind of more places than just the Hinterlands, and like maybe bringing back some of these legacy commands?
Yeah, I mean, like, mercenaries are really fun to deal with, right? Like, and part of the reason I've been creating new units for stuff, whether that's like the Tomcats or the Filibuster Brigade,
The
which is a
poor
unit that
the poor Tomcats too. Like he thinks it's a good thing that he scores this contract with House Steiner. I'm like, bro, you've not been paying attention.
no, um, or the Filibuster Brigade and Voidbreaker. Mainly, I tend to lean on creating new units because I know that I'm definitely not going to make the fact check guys' lives harder, right? And I know that I'm not going to end up spending a lot more time in fact check, making things more difficult. Now, sometimes, um, sometimes fact check will say, "Hey, we have this unit. Could we swap out this one that you've created for something else?" And that happened in Voidbreaker once, and we did that, and it worked really well. Um, and I love being able to use some of those legacy units, and there's some of those in the graphic novel too. Um, so I
So
love bringing them back when we can,
so
and I
David
love bringing them back everywhere.
David Vargas says something that really should have been a Ray question.
Uh
but
huh.
but we're gonna do this anyway. He goes, will the Free Worlds League get a W or make major stuff happen in the Ill Clan era? Um,
That's a Ray or a Phil
yeah,
question.
that's
Like
that's
I'm so
that's
far removed from. I've written. I mean, granted, Voidbreaker starts in the Free Worlds League, and I guess I've written a couple stories in the Free Worlds League, but like,
they're not like the Free Worlds League. You're like writing about an individual government, or
yeah,
like it's
like,
not like what are the organs of state doing? What are the like
yeah,
this? Um,
I'm the Hinterlands guy.
how bad are this is actually something you might know a little bit more about. How bad are the former RAF insurgents for the Ill Clan?
I mean, th- they could be a real problem, right? Like insurgents are always bad news for the occupying government, right?
So I think I have my own opinion to answer Angry Caveman's question, but I also think that, of course, you will have an opinion on it as well. He goes, question, if someone skipped all of the Dark Age novels, where/what book would you start catching up? What do you skip, Brian?
I mean, like when I tell people if you want to skip the Dark Age and you want to just start up with the Oak Clan era, usually I have people just start with Foxtails if they're new to BattleTech. If they're not new to BattleTech, I ask them what they like, and if they want to, if they like clans, I would say Question of Survival. If they like high action like mercenary stuff, like high level mercenary stuff, I'd say Redemption Rights. If they like house politics, I'd say Damocles Sanction.
I would say personally, if you're already familiar with BattleTech to some degree, I would actually say the new Grey Death Legion trilogy by like the novella trilogy by Jason
From
Spencer.
Schmetzer.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I like in terms of just ease of reading, it's simple characters but done well, and simple stories done well, but explaining the world around them without exposition that feels weirdly placed. Like it really works. I really like those books.
Um but I think if you want to skip the Dark Age, um really Redemption Rights, Damocles Sanction, Question of Survival, New Grey Death Legion, Foxtails, any of those can be a really excellent entry point. I actually think Voidbreaker could be a really good entry point too, because all of them manage to give you a scope of what's happened in the Inner Sphere, even though Terra's not the focus. And they're all really entertaining. I think those. I don't think you can go wrong with any of those.
Bryan, do you have to set an end game for G that you want to happen? I mean, I don't think he can tell you if that's what it is, but do you have an end game for what you want to see happen with G Chistu?
I mean, I wouldn't call it an end game, right? Because I don't have an end point determined for him.
I mean, he's going to become the Ilkhan. Clearly, the Ilkhan, the Ilkhan of the Ilkhan.
Yeah, no, him and Katie are gonna get into an arranged marriage, and the two of them are gonna become
First Lord of the Starleague.
Yeah, no, it's funny how many times people tell me that they want Katie Ferraro to become the new Ilkhan. And I'm just like, how would that even work? Like, that doesn't make sense. But,
you're like, but no, why though?
I've got like G's next 2 or 3 steps planned in my head, but I don't want to get too far ahead because this is a pretty fluid universe. And I know at some point after I get the next couple of steps, we'll probably have another creative summit and we're all going to come around, and I don't want to have some preconceived idea in my head on how I want to use G to the point where I'm in that meeting stamping my feet going like, no, this is what we have to do.
Yeah.
Right?
You want to have options.
I want to have options, and I want him to be the most flexible tool we can to tell the best story possible. And even the next 2 or 3 steps I have planned for him in my head, if we got together tomorrow and said, hey, we've got a better idea for how we want to take this part, and I say, oh, you know what? G is going to fit even better there. I'm going to go that direction. Yeah. I want Battletech to go the best direction possible. And so like, I'm not married to any of the pet ideas that I have, about the characters, except for Katie and the Fox Patrol. Those ones I'm like,
Malachi,
I know where they're
why
going.
Are you wishing such evil on everyone? Why would you wish that evil on Steiner fans? Why would you wish that evil on Steiner fans, dude? I'll read it out loud. Yeah. He goes, okay, I lied. Consolidate the debt and genes via Alaric marrying Trillion. They can consolidate the debt and genes and get a Habsburg chin in the kids. It's win-win. I really hope that doesn't happen. I'm not gonna lie to you, Brother Malachi. I really hope that doesn't happen. It's like, look, how Steiner needs cool things. They don't need uncool things. Though it is funny to note that being a Steiner now means to really oversee financial ruin, it seems. Because people don't know that Alaric Ward is a Steiner. But he is. And he's not good with money.
Well, can't they just cancel debt, right?
You know, realistically, this is something that I think that the Sea Foxes should be wary of. He is the Ilkhan of the Ill Clan. Like, right now, he agrees that he's in debt with these people, and he would be extraordinarily foolish to make enemies of them. But he could just be like, yeah, I don't owe you anything. I'm the Ilkhan of the Ill Clan. As Ilkhan, I can claim all debts, you know, null and void. It's like, that would be bad for the battle. Like, you know, and eventually, like, there could be really bad consequences to his financial mismanagement of Clan Wolf and the Star League. Like,
yeah,
you know, not just for them, but like...
Could you imagine Alaric's downfall being like the clan equivalent of them pinching Al Capone for tax evasion?
It's like Alaric goes down because Alaric's like, well, you guys, I declare bankruptcy. They're like, what? but you owe us like several star systems worth of money. He's like, no anymore, I don't. I'm the Ilkhan. My word is law.
Money's an abstract. Money's an abstract. We create it. It doesn't matter. You know what's not an abstract? This laser pistol.
But no, even without the laser pistol, as Ilkhan, people don't realize, like, his word is law. Like, you know, like, if he wants to test that, he can, he might, you know, FAFO. But, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's sort of like in like a British monarchist, like, Commonwealth, the monarch can exercise a lot of power. They usually don't, because when you exercise that power, you test that power, and, you know, like, that's like, you know, it's a complicated thing when the crown says, yeah, we're just gonna waive these things. It's like, really? You're just gonna, like, you know, if Alaric just decided to say that, oh, as Ilkhan, I declare all debts settled, like, you know, the Sea Foxes might not be willing to support the Star League going forward.
Yeah.
You know, like...
And his support's already running thin after he did that little maneuver with the bears.
Can you imagine after he screws the bears over, he totally screws the Sea Foxes? You see the Sea Foxes like, bro, what are you doing? Like, even as he's saying this, the Khan's like, sit down. He's like, well, I'm the Ilkhan. He's like, no, you need to sit down. He's like, and you need to listen to me.
I'm the captain here now.
It's like, you're going to take back what you just said. I'm the Ilkhan. I don't have to do that. You're right. You don't have to do that. But there are these things called consequences that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Do you know why you couldn't beat House Liao clean? Because you pissed off the Ghost Bears. That's why. And you want to know why you're about to go bankrupt and no one's going to lend you money? Because you just said that you don't owe me any of my fucking money. You see, like, the Snow Raven in the room just getting quiet, like, backing into the corner, like... Oh, God. For the record, that shouldn't happen, but that would be one of the... Like, just the total meltdown from the Sea Fox Con. He's even like, yeah, I'll take the haircut, but you have no idea what you're talking about. He's like, you have no idea what you're doing. Helmer in the background next to the Sea Fox Con, like, for the record, I don't know this guy.
For the record, I completely agree with you, but I'm not the one who's going to say it. Can I tell you the funniest thing about Noritomo Helmer? Is that as I've read that book, I could not separate his voice from Michael Ceravella's. Like,
yeah, you told me that too, and once you told me that, I was like, how dare you?
Because then you couldn't do it either.
Yeah, like I was ending half of his sentences with, and that's a wonderful thing. It's like, no.
Because I mean, like, he speaks in that cadence, that same cadence as Ceravella.
He does. And the other characters have unique voices too, so it's not just Mike's, you know, only, like, yeah, it's just that particular character speaks like Mike speaks, you know, which is just really amusing.
It's a wonderful thing.
Like it was said in Goodfellas, F you pay me.
Yeah.
Let's see here. The Star League is a ship that is too big to even attempt steering. Sea Foxes, due to non-payments of debt, we are repurposing Terra. Let's see here. It's a wonderful thing. That's right, JP. I remember a great quote. Socrates, I drank what? I'm sorry, Ilkhan. Our network is new and we are experiencing networking difficulties. We are deeply sorry for the plan. The plans for your invasion went out to every house lord. We are working the kinks. Oh, yeah, they just start leaking. Just start leaking data ever. Yeah, so this planet's not defended right now. He's bluffing. Oh, God. Money is just a concept, bro. Your continued breathing is just a concept. Oh boy. Yeah, like I'm just trying to think, is there anything else we can really discuss here today?
There's another question in there about when will Katie get a new mech that isn't a horrible death trap?
Well, I mean, does she need a new mech that's not a horrible death trap?
You know, I'll be honest, that's one of the most frustrating things about writing Fox Patrol stories is not killing Katie accidentally.
Yeah, like you put her in a Kit Fox too.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm like, that's a great pun for the name for the unit and all that, but I'm like, that's not a very.
There's a couple stories where she ends up like down and unable to do things, and so she's literally just listening to the battle going like, why can't I do this? And now at this point she's got this like attachment to the mech. I've been trying to get her into a new mech, but she won't get into one.
Well, I mean, maybe if her Kit Fox just gets cored, eventually it just becomes like one of those things where it's like, well,
emotional and horrible.
I loved you, Kit Fox. Why did you betray me? It's just a giant Gauss hole in the center torso.
Yeah. You'll notice in the Christmas story, if you read it, that she's looking for more omnipods to get a better loadout for it. So at least she's already interested in trying to get a better, at least something better out of it. So her head is there.
But yeah, I mean, if you put her in like a heavy medium or a light heavy or something like that,
yeah, she's looking, she's starting to lean that way because she realizes how squishy she is.
You know what? This is going to be a fan favorite, and I want you to hear me out. I know you like the Marauder, right?
Yeah.
Put her in the black.
They have one.
No, put her in the Black Marauder. You see the rest of the unit, like, Katie, are you sleeping? She's like trembling, trying to do stuff, just totally falling apart in the middle of the unit. I think Katie killed one of our employers after he paid us. So like, nah, that wouldn't happen. She's like all crazy and all this in the background. It's like, is everything okay with Katie over there?
Maybe we'll do that as a non-canon Halloween story.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing. Katie killing the rest of the Fox Patrol.
Oh my
you
god.
were wanting to do a horror. You were wanting to do a horror novel. Katie gets in the Black Marauder and just begins losing her mind and killing the rest of the crew.
Maybe that'll be the next one. Maybe if I get to 150 patrons, I'll write that.
She is far too optimistic. I'm out. Black Marauder vanishes.
Yeah, the Black Marauder spirit just kind of goes like, she's too sweet. I'm getting a cavity. I gotta get the hell out of here.
She's like, wait, come back. I like windows and doors. Katie, another tech has gone missing. Do you know anything? Oh boy. The Black Marauder punts her out of the cockpit in 2 weeks. We can never be one. She is too adorable. She keeps pawing at the colors. Wow. I've never seen a color like that before. She's like, everyone else is all going through like these trances, or she's like, that's amazing. This is awesome.
I've never seen a mech like this. I wonder what does that. I need to see under this thing's hood.
Let's see here. Kitty actually exercises the Black Marauder. Oh, terrible. Black Marauder running away, bellowing all frequencies. Leave. So, but outside of jokingly putting Katie Ferraro in the Black Marauder, yeah, I mean, like, I think it could be interesting if you put her, of course, in a more substantive mech. But it always, like, mechs also have to fit the personality of the people piloting them. Like, that's of course that's not true in real life, or wouldn't be true in every instance. But if we're just talking, like, obviously from narrative structure, the characters have to be, they have a connection figuratively with the machine they pilot.
Yeah.
Right?
and it's interesting how well that Kit Fox does fit Katie
for the moment, because
and
she's still naive. She's still,
yeah.
like, and she has to grow as she grows as a person, she'll outgrow the Kit
Yeah.
Fox.
And it's funny because people ask me that a lot, like when is she going to get out of that Kit Fox? Not because I think the mech doesn't match her, but it's because I think people are worried about her, right? Like
Well, you can always
they are
swerve the
concerned
audience
for
and
her
just
safety.
just her mech gets blown to shit, and Katie's just like a half-charred
Yeah.
corpse, and you're just like, that's the end of the Foxtail series, guys. We did it. We did it. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
especially since we've already lost, one mech already, right? Like, and it was the other light, um, which people were already like upset about, but now everybody's like, that Ion Sparrow is
No,
such a
no,
good mech.
you know what? Just put her in an urban mech. People love urban mechs.
Oh man, she'd never make it to the battles. She'd just be commanding from behind,
She's like,
or
guys,
she'd
I can't quite make it, you guys. I'm trying to keep up. What's going on out there? The mech that works for Katie is the Mad Cat 3, as it's readily available and would fit quite well. It's a cool mech. I like the Mad Cat 3. I don't know if that would... I haven't read enough of Katie to say if I think that would fit her or not, but it's a cool mech. Put her in a Charger. Charger 1A1, 5 small lasers. She's got this.
I think what I might do is pick something that's like one of those mechs that's just like that has all of the like difficult to maintain quirks, and she's able to keep it purring like a
Oh,
kitten.
yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be a cool one. That actually encompasses a few mechs. And, you put her in a stone rhino. They salvage it from the hell sources. She goes from a Kit Fox to a 100-ton monster. Foxtails. It's just lumbering along. Is this mech better? Is this mech better? A Shadowhawk? No, Katie, it's not. Uh, or put her in a Jade Falcon mech. Yeah, there's tons of directions they could go.
Yeah. Well, and now she's on Elmatason now, so anything's possible.
You know what? I think, and this is just what I think. Don't take it to the bank, but I also think it's cool when you have a character grow by salvaging the mech from someone else. So like, it's
Yeah.
not something just bought off the shelf or anything like that. It's just like, it's sort of like that line from that Vin Diesel movie, "You keep what you kill," right?
Yeah.
It's
She
that.
really would have liked to keep that Kodiak. I think if she would have upgraded, it would have been to that Kodiak.
But I just don't think the Kodiak, like, does the Kodiak fit Katie Ferraro as a character?
No.
Yeah, Black Lantern could be really cool. Warhammer 2C4 can get it easier than Omnis or as a Sorla, maybe even convert it to a Hot Hammer by removing the ER small laser and adding a plain clan flamer. Warhammer 2C is a very cool mech. But it's a huge mech. Everybody's giving all of these recommendations for what they want to put Katie in. Like, put her in an HRC 9004.
Yeah.
But no, there's a ton of cool mechs that are difficult to maintain that are out there if you go looking. Probably my favorite mech that's difficult to maintain is the Lament. That's a really cool mech.
No, I'll have to look into it. It's been something that's been weighing heavy on me anyway, just because it is difficult, like as a writer, to like look at a record sheet for a Kit Fox and go, how am I gonna make this story plausible and keep her alive?
I mean, the first things first, I would definitely put her in a battle up against the Hell Sources. They'll find a way to lose. Really, anything's plausible against the Hell Sources. Vapor Eagle's a cool mech.
Yeah, no, the Lance does need to upgrade to advance the unit, and they are upgrading. They are making some upgrades, so we are upgrading slowly.
But
The
as I said
trading
though,
the
like,
Locust for the Ion Sparrow was a huge upgrade, actually.
but not only that, it's also a matter of the mech is part of the character. And
Yeah,
like when the mech is destroyed or the mech is replaced or anything like that, it represents it has to be tied with the character developing in a way where they have moved past what that was. So it can't just be out of nowhere. It can't just be like, hey guys, check it out. I've got a wicked cool Kodiak now. It's like,
yeah,
does that work? Does that actually
yeah,
work?
yeah. No, I know. I've had an idea for how I was going to do it. I just haven't decided on what and when, because it'll be devastating. Like it's not something that's going to be like she's going to be happy about.
As I said, Kit Fox getting blown away by Clan ER PPCs or whatever. Maybe she loses both side torsos and it's just so expensive to fix that she's just like, it's impossible. Hey Lois, remember that time Clan Sea Fox took my mech?
No, I'm excited for that Fox Patrol book too. When it comes out eventually, there's some really good stuff in there that.
Oh, Katie,
And Almatation.
Katie would be annihilated by Peter Cobb. Like, and
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
say
think there's
that
any.
like I despise Peter Cobb as a character, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna be. Poor Katie would be dead in 2 seconds.
And he's in what, like an Iron Cheetah, right? So like
even
he would
before,
turn her into a grief spot in a moment.
even before he was in an Iron Cheetah, he was still in like a Mad Cat 2 or something. Like he was still in an assault mech. Like,
Yeah, no, like
just
Peter Cobb would not. That would not go well.
dead. It's like, yeah, so he's got better stats, he's more ruthless, and he's got a better mech. Good luck, Katie. Maybe if I just keep at range, both of her side torsos just blast off in a single round of fire. Oh, you guys, I didn't make it. Sorry, you guys, I tried my best.
She just shouts teamwork as she hits the eject.
Oh my god. Kamehameha! Katie, whoa, that Iron Cheetah is so cool! That's funny. That's really funny. What is your mech, Brian? If you had to be in a mech, what would you be in?
Um, I've been playing. I've been having a lot of fun, like playing as the Fox Patrol lately because you have to play so tactically or you're just wasted. Which I think is really fun. I think it's play. I'm not one of those min-max players, right? Like I'm not. I don't like going like, this is the most powerful mech I can possibly choose, and this is how I'm going to like dominate everything. I like going like randomly picking mechs out of a jar and going like, how am I going to make this work? You know what I mean? Like that's more fun to me.
Brother Malachi, by the way, came in the recommendation. If you want a light, get her into a fireball. Just an old, like a fireball wouldn't be in a Bryan cache. It's a 3055 mech, but it's really fast. It dies like nobody's business. Like, just a strong breeze and the fireball goes out. But, it's real fast.
But so I've been playing with the Fox Patrol a lot lately. I've been playing with a Gyrfalcon and a Shrike. I really like the Night Sky. I hate the Night Sky, but I really like the Night Sky.
Didn't you get chased around an entire map
Oh
or an
my
entire
Lord.
like tournament by like a Night Sky with a hatchet just trying to run you
it
down?
was. I want to say like my second Masters and Minions tournament. I had a guy who brought a night sky, and I was in a Shrike and a Gyrfalcon, and he brought a night sky, and he just followed my ass around the board and chopped me to pieces. And it didn't matter how many times I shot him. With everything I had, I just sanded off armor like around the clock face of every piece of his armor. And through the entire game, I think Mike and I were there playing till 1 a.m, and I still couldn't kill that guy. And I told him straight up, like, I took his record sheet and his name and everything, and I'm like, I'm going to murder you in a book, like straight up. And it's gonna be in it. It's gonna be in a night sky, and I did. I wrote that. It hasn't come out yet, but I wrote that.
Your contempt is real. Your contempt
oh yeah,
is
no,
real.
I was so just like I wasn't like serious. I wasn't like angry, but I was like, my cat is here purring into the microphone. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
This is Cornelius.
That's an excellent name for a cat.
But he's a Norwegian forest cat, so he purrs really loud, like he's a big cat.
Cool.
But yeah, he very much vexed me. And so yeah, I wrote him into a story and destroyed that night sky in the book since I couldn't do it on the board. But playing a night sky is extremely fun.
It's such a cool mech. I love the night sky.
Yeah.
So
but like I have fun with anything.
We've only got a few minutes left, just because I tend to hard cap most of the interviews closer to the 2-hour mark. So for the last few minutes here, let's get back to Voidbreaker. Just because we've also have some people here who weren't here at the start.
Yeah.
What do you want to tell people about Voidbreaker?
I want to tell people about Voidbreaker. Like, the thing about Voidbreaker is that it's fun. I want people to go in and have fun, but also, oh god.
The cat's just coming in.
Yeah.
The cat's like, no more Voidbreaker.
This is the Bond portion. It feels
goodness.
very much like a Bond. It really is my love of like Battletech, but also like James Bond and espionage books and movies, and really has that vibe to it. And so I want people to like see that in Battletech, but also like I hope that it answers a lot of questions that people have had for a long time in Battletech, and it does answer some of those. Oh, believe me, I've been working on coming up with putting cats in Battletech.
There's already cats in Battletech.
They have them. Yeah,
that's called Clan Nova Cat, Clan Spirit Cat.
No, like actual cats. They have cats in dropships. Like they put magnets in their paws.
Yeah, because
like
it's a mouse.
So
because
cool.
they're there for mousing.
Yeah. But no, like Voidbreaker, I really did pour my heart and soul into creating a story that had really complex characters. And again, my philosophy is very much putting character first into the story. And Kenja Rodriguez is another one of those that I hope people really respond to and love. And they just know that I did my best and tried to just tell a classic Battletech story that I hope they enjoy. And that I'm really proud of it.
Am I going to be getting Voidbreaker now? No.
No, you are. You're getting a copy.
I will receive a copy, and I will point out that I do not wish to receive a copy, but I will receive a copy.
You're going to receive a copy, and it is going to have a horrible death for Tucker Harwell in it.
I'll read the horrible death for Tucker Harwell, definitely.
Okay.
My buddy is 16 years... My buddy of 16 years was a Norwegian forest cat. I miss Apollo. I'm sorry to hear that, Grand Potato.
Yeah, no, Cornelius here's 14, and he's an old man, and he's got his health problems, and I'm really not looking forward to him getting much older.
We had to say goodbye to Bentley back in November.
Yeah.
October 31st. We had to say goodbye to our 17-year-old little miniature pincher. So it's always sad when they go.
Yeah.
Now everybody's depressed instead of excited for Voidbreaker. I hope you're happy, Grand Potato.
Well, I hope Cornelius's purring is offering some comfort, because
Why don't we put
his
Katie?
purring is the best.
Just put Katie Ferraro into an Archangel. Give her the neural implant so she can click in, and no one will think that's suspicious at all. Captain General Conk, also known as Besker, says, Brian, on a final note, thanks for answering out the questions of the chaos. I look forward to GE Jack Sparrow escapades worth every penny for its chaos. So I will remind people that Besker did in fact do a donation earlier where he mentioned that a ton of people can pick up Patreon memberships for this. You might want to repost that link if you can, Besker, so you guys can get temporary Patreon memberships from Bryan Young.
I am a fan of Star Fox, but his name did not come from the Cornelia system. His name came from Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. She will never leave that Archangel. She will still be grieving the breakup with the Dark One.
Yeah, no, he's loud. He is really loud.
I remember when we got Captain General Conk done on the channel. I mentioned, I think it was to John Helfers at the time. I was just like, yeah, so we're doing this now. He's like, your fans are crazy. I'm like, John, these are your fans. This is your audience. Yeah. And he's like, oh God.
Yeah, no, but yeah, no, I hope folks check out Voidbreaker, and I really dig it. I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of the work that the whole team did on it, right? Like, no Battletech book is made in a vacuum, right? Like, you've
got fact check, you've got other authors, you've got direction from the editorial and everything.
Yeah, and even when it's like a standalone book like this, it stands up on the work of others, right? Like, Randall really set the tone for what the Sea Foxes were with Hunters of the Deep, and there were characters like Tucker that were created by others. Like in Target of Opportunity, that was Blanley Pardoe book, and there were other characters there, or Bonfire Worlds by Steve Mohan. Obviously setting the stage with Hour of the Wolf and Ilkhan's Eyes Only, and everybody who worked on that book, like everyone at the Creative Summit, the developers, Ray, Aaron, and Josh Perrion, who was working on Ilkhan's Eyes Only. And Josh Perrion was working with me every day. Like, there's so much travel in this book as far as how much of the inner sphere that has to be covered. And he was there every day helping me figure out how we could tell the story the best way possible with the travel constraints, by helping me work out the transit times, not just between planets, but the recharge times, and like how long it's going to take to get from, jump point to surface, and like doing all of that math. Even though it's like fake Battletech math, we have to keep it consistent with the universe.
Yeah, Battletech is, people don't realize that it is a little bit of the hard sci-fi side when it comes to space travel. It's, most of the theories they use for faster than light travel are not credible anymore, but in the 1980s, they were actually like fairly, like, it's based on principles of physics as we understood them in the 1980s, that if you had the power based, like Battletech is very Star Trek-y in the context of like, this is why this works. It's some of it is fantasy, of course, just to make to grease the wheels of the setting. But like I had a friend who I tried to get into Battletech a couple years ago. He's like, bro, I don't do hard sci-fi. I'm like, oh, what do you mean? He's just like, he's just like that. He's like, these things all like, there's no Star Wars in this. There's no like, oh, the ship's laser blasters. I'm like, yeah, that's why it's cool. He's like, no. It's like, that's why it's not cool. I'm like, oh, okay.
But yeah, no, there was a whole team of people, and then yeah, like fact check, and then the editorial, right? Like John Helfers and Catherine Monasterio, and those folks working on it. It's just like there's a huge team of people in BattleTech working on it, so it's not just me. And like I mentioned, like Jason Hanso, like he read early versions of it because I wrote this before or during Skulk of Foxes, so like we were trying to make sure we weren't stepping on each other's toes with watch stuff and just really looking out for each other. And it's a really creative environment to be working in. Everybody's just great.
All right. Well, with that said, I think we have hit our limit here today. I think we're at the 2-hour mark. So I would like to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you all for enjoying this fun interview. I've got a link to the book in the pinned comment. So if you want to check it out, check it out. It is important fiction, whether I'm interested in reading it or not. It is literally the case that it is important fiction. There's a lot of people who've wanted some of the answers about the HPG blackout and where things are going to go in terms of what comes after. And I think that this book should at least touch on some of that. So with that being said, thank you everybody for joining us here today, and I will catch you all tomorrow.